What's going on, YouTubers? So, once again, we're in the shop, as usual, messing with the truck. It ran really good. Then all of a sudden, I'm talking about side effects. All of a sudden, it's kind of started running. You almost call it rough. But I had plenty of power. I had no problems. And one thing I noticed when it's idling at nighttime, like when you sleep with AC on, fan on, AC's working, everything's working. It has like it starts shaking. Not very hard, very minor. I think the guy who drove it first time, he wouldn't even notice it, and the exhaust become very loud. So finally made it home. I got unloaded and made it home, and took the valve covers off. As you guys can see, well, I put them back on, but I got the pipe out, goes on the top, took the valve covers off, check all the wire harnesses, everything seems legit. Check all the rocker bolts, the injector bolts where it pushes the valves and injector. Everything seems fine. Then I start checking on a fuel system. And as you guys can see, I have Caterpillar filter and a Fleet Guard. Reason being, I don't remember what number it is, but that fuel filter is actually, if it's a cat, it clogs up a lot faster. Somebody explained to me, I don't know if it's a right way or bad way, the Caterpillar, the secondary filter, after 3,000 miles being in the fuel, let's say if this is cat filter, basically, if anybody ever cut the filter open, there's a bunch of ribs inside. And the paper swells up, and it becomes from 2.5 or 3 micron, it swells up and goes to like 1 micron, and you get a restricted fuel pressure under load. So I put my fuel gauge on, and I do have electric pump. There's a prime pump. So this is your primary filter, goes into the pump. Then there's another transfer pump, which is a cat pump, and then comes out of this little line, and it goes in this fuel filter housing, and then it goes in from, this is supply, and it goes in the back of the head. I know it's supposed to be backwards. From back of the head, supposed to comes into return, to return right here, but I changed the polarity. So my fuel pressure goes in the back of the head, reason being because there's a lot bigger hole in the back of the head than over there. And then I did my return, obviously comes from my front, which is right here, and it goes to this line. So short story, long story, there's a check valve right here. You unscrew it and there's a check valve. So I put the fuel pressure gauge on it, and on idle I was getting about 71 psi. So I did a little bit of research on the internet, and they told me it's supposed to be between 75 to 85 psi. Between 75 and 85 psi on idle, and about 95 to 115 under the load. So I had 2 of those things, and I took this one off, took this one out, put this one in. Same thing. Start reading some more. What I found out is actually updated part number for it, and that part number, don't quote me on it, but I had a piece of paper right here. I just called Freightliner. 1 second. So when I bought the right here, when I bought the truck, I actually bought all the most common things will go bad with the cat, just to have it. So this is the part number I bought it. Well, ends up being a wrong part number, and this is the original one. What this is this is valve GP. I think it's hydraulic pressure. I don't know what a GP means for. Check valve, basically. That's what creates the pressure in your head. So if you take your valve and you press on it, which is right here, press is very easy. Okay, so what I ended up doing, I called the cat, actually found the right part number, The not Cat, Fredliner, they didn't have a part. Plus it's Saturday, nobody else is open. So I says, you know what? I'm sure they assembled this thing somehow, and it looked pretty basic. So basically, this center part is a plunger, and it goes inside, and a spring pushes it up. So I took the one I bought it. This is the original one. The one I bought it, I disassemble it, and I'll show you guys how it disassembles. It's actually fairly easy. Oops, sorry. You gotta be careful with the vice scrapes not to mess up the O-ring. Well, this one doesn't come apart too easy. But basically, I have a phone and everything else. Basically, what do? There's a little notch right here. It's just a regular thread inside, and you unscrew this from a housing, and there's going to be a spring inside. Basically, I stretch the spring out, push it back, put it back on, and this plunger ended up being a lot stronger than the other one. This is the original one, so I'm just going to keep that one as a spare in case somebody needs it. What we came out with the fuel pressure now, like I said before, let me wipe my screen out. Before I had on idle 70 psi before I stretched the spring out. Oh yeah, one more thing. There's a check valve up here too. Relief pressure on a pump. That one I stretched a long time ago, so it's basically about that long, and I just stretched it out, and I would say another half an inch or so. But it was a 71 psi. By reading on the internet, it's supposed to be between 75 and 85. That is on idle now. And believe it or not, the engine sounds a lot smoother. Because I can tell the tire is not vibrating as bad, but that seems a little too high. And when you rev up, it goes about 115, 120. Which I think, I'm not a professional mechanic, this thing has a 16:1 compression instead of 18:1, but it has factory injectors, and it makes really good power. I have no complaints about that. But the reason I'm saying it's okay to be a 120, maybe even 125, because I paid attention. Every time the fuel gets very hot, plus in the summertime, it has tendency to, the hotter fuel loses a little bit of pressure. So I think by the time I warm the fuel up, it's going to go back down to like 110, 115 under the load. So that's a little trick deal with this valve JP. And if you have a twin turbo Cat, you might want to, I lost that thing again. Before you go run up and buy one, just take it and stretch a spring on it, and then check your fuel pressure. Because a lot of times these things do fail, especially on the later model Cats, the one with the DPF and AGR and the whole 9 yards. The one has a spark plug in it, and those I read on the internet, and one guy told me they actually use the MXX one, and they bypass the fuel, and those needs to have a little bit more pressure. But give me a second, let me try to take this one apart so you guys have a clue what I'm talking about. It comes apart very easy. screw that a little bit more. So basically, you guys see the part, you unscrew it, but you gotta be careful because it's a spring loaded. It can fly off, so put your hand over it. So when you're gonna take apart, basically screws in, there's a plunger. And the one guy told me this plunger actually wears out. Let me wipe it off, see if the camera catches it. See that discoloration? That plunger actually wears out. So basically it goes inside here like this, and it goes in and out. That's what I was pushing on. And here's the spring. So the plunger, basically screw it in, holds it. And if I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong, but this part, I think it's almost like $100. What you end up doing, stretch the spring out quite a bit, put it back in, and then just start it back together, and that's it. And then just snug it out. And on this rib right here, you can tap it with a hammer so it gets tight. First thing you're gonna put it in, ain't gonna go nowhere. So basically now, this spring is a lot harder on this valve. So I'm gonna keep this one for this pair. That's the little knowledge I got for you guys today. All the Caterpillar guys.